Hello and welcome dear students. Today we are going to talk about the post-Gupta polities. After the fall of Guptas from the political landscape of India, there emerged a number of dynasties ruling from different parts of North as well as South India. In today's lecture, we shall be discussing about them. But before we discuss the topic, let me briefly talk about the objectives. The political scenario that emerged in the post-Gupta period, the Harsha and his role in consolidating North Indian polities, changing nature of polities during post-Gupta period. So first we will be talking about the Pushyabutis. We learn about the rise of the Pushyabuti family from a number of sources. They initially governed from Thaneshwar in Haryana and then from Kannauj in Uttar Pradesh. The Harishcharita, Hyun Song's narrative, as well as a few inscriptions and coins are some of these sources. According to Banabhatta, Pushapati served as the first king of this dynasty in Thaneshwar and his family was referred to as Pushapati Vamsha. But he is not mentioned in any of Harsha's inscriptions. 5 previous kings are mentioned in the Banaskara and Madhuvan Palette and royal seals, the first 3 of whom are granted the title of Maharaja. This would suggest that they were legitimate kings. As a Maharaja Adhiraj, the 4th king, Prabhakar Vardhana, was said to have formed marriage ties with the Mukharis by marrying his daughter Rajasari to Grahavarman. This indicates that he was an autonomous ruler. The Hunnas were posing a danger to Thaneshwar at this time in or around 604 CE. Prabhakar Vardhana has been compared by Banabhatta to a lion to the Hunna deer. He claims Rajavardhana led an army dispatched to defeat the Hunnas, but Rajavardhana was forced to return due to his father's untimely illness. After Prabhakar Vardhana's passing, the family experienced some difficulty. The Malava king imprisoned Rajasari and killed Grahavarman. It appears that the Malava and Goda rulers formed an alliance endangering even Thaneshwar. Rajavardhana conquered the Malavas, but Sasanka, the Goda king, betrayed him and killed him. It was now Harsha's obligation to get retribution, and with time he was able to build a powerful empire. Now we will be talking about political activities of Harsha and overview. In 606 CE, Harsha took the throne. He was a member of the Pushapati dynasty, which was centered on Sitvanshivara, modern Thanesar, in the Ambala district of Punjab. From the inscriptions of his contemporaries such as Cholakya Pulaksen II and Sasanka, the king of Goda in the West Bengali region of Murshidabad, it is possible to determine the veracity of the conquests claimed in his records. Both were his competitors. The 4th monarch in the line and Harsha's father was Prabhakar Vardhana. Rajavardhana and Harshavardhana were his 2 sons. Rajasari, one of his daughters, got married to Grahavarman, the ruler of Kanyabuja's Mukhari dynasty. It was a significant marriage partnership that altered the balance of power in North India in the 7th century. The Mukhari's main enemy, Goda, had joined forces with Devagupta of Malwa. By assassinating Grahavarman, the Mukhari monarch and Harsha's brother-in-law, the Goda and Malwa kings Sasanka and Devagupta had stirred up problems. They took Kanya Kubja prisoner. Harsha's older brother Rajavardhana perished in the enemy's camp. After saving his sister Rajasari, the widow queen of Grahavarman, the Mukhari minister, offered Harsha the throne because they were without any heir. Now that Harsha was on the throne of Kanyabhuja, he started to govern over both the Pushupati and Mukhari lands. He therefore made a pledge to exact revenge on Sasanka and invade the eastern nations that had defied him by swearing loyalty. But neither Zhongzhang nor Banabhatha provide any detail about the actual conflict between the Sasanka and Harsha. In addition, Zhuzhang notes that Sasanka had chopped the Bodhi tree at Gaya a few years prior to 637-638 CE. Sasanka could not have committed such an act without controlling the Gaya region, as it was a revered Buddhist symbol. He further said that by 643 CE, Harsha had taken control of Odra and Kongada in northern, eastern, and southern Odisha. Thus, it would seem that Harsha was unable to succeed in eastern India prior to Sasanka's passing in around 637 CE. The Matrikas, who served as the Gupta's vassals, ruled the kingdom of Vallabhi in Saurashtra. It is a little complicated how Harsha and the Matrika dynasty are related. The Gujara monarchs of Broch claimed in their inscription Nosuri gift of Jayabhatha II 726 CE to have defended the Vallabhi ruler from Harsha's dominance. Originally, the kingdoms of the Harsha and Cholakya Pulaksen II, which were to the north and south of the Narmada respectively, were situated in between the Latas, southern Gujarat, Malwas and Gujaras. Harsha and Pulaksen would thus make an effort to manage three of them. In his Iloha inscription, Pulaksen II claims these three kings as his vassals. However, due to a marriage tie between the two, peace must have been established when Harsha took over the Vallabhi kingdom. As a result, Durvasena II, Baladatya of Matrika dynasty, wedded Harsha's daughter and joined his side. As a result, Pulaksen's authority over Durvasena II was weaned off by this partnership. This would have been the motivation behind the famous battle between Pulaksen II and Harsha. Now, we will be talking about the extent of Harsha's kingdom. Parts of the present-day states of Uttar Pradesh, South Bihar, and Odisha appear to have been under Harsha's control. Thanesar, a portion of eastern Punjab, and eastern Rajasthan were left to him. In addition to Bhaskavarman, Harsha also had power over the monarchs of Jalandhar and maybe Kashmir. The king of Kamrupa was another one of his subservient allies. The Narmada served as Pulaksen II's governing limit in the south. Thus, the size of Harsha's dominion was not as great as first-generation historians had assumed. Therefore, there is no justification for designating him as the last great Hindu monarch or for considering that his rule signified the end of the ancient era and the start of the medieval era. In reality, modern historians contest the notion that an event like the death of a king signified the end of an era. The change over from one era to another ought to be founded on historical events that significantly affected society on all fronts. Now we will be talking about the changing structure of polity. Many of the kingdoms or states that emerged after the fall of Guptas continued with administrative setup as it was established by the imperial Guptas. However, along with this continuity, we also note few changes as well. Rulers of the next era adopted the complex titles and names of administrative units as used by the Gupta kings. The Pushyabutis were no exception, and they frequently used the titles Maharaja Adhiraj, Parmeshwara, and Parma Bhattaraka to denote their imperial status. So far the administration is concerned, regarding the administration under Harsha's reign, very little information is accessible. The numerous titles used by the government appears to have persisted since the Gupta era. According to Xunzang, taxation was not harsh and the king received 1/6 of the farmer's harvest as his portion of the grain. He claims there was no regular vesti, but he continues by claiming that it was moderate and that there were few taxes. Devhoti believes he is most likely referring to labor rather than taxes. Harsha was a powerful king who installed his official with trust and loyalty. He was a diligent king according to Xunzang. His day was divided into 3 sections, of which one was given over to kingdom issues and the other 2 to matters of religion. While state affairs may refer to more secular aspects of governance, religious affairs may refer to charitable giving, the establishment of educational institutions, the opening up of hospitals for the poor, the provision of free rest areas along highways, the organization of philosophical discussions, the planting of fruit-bearing or shade-giving trees, etc. Through inspection visits in which he travelled in undercover, he also maintained intimate contact with the average person. He was a skilled administrator, thanks in part to his familiarity with his vast domain. Param Bhatrika Maharaja Adhiraja, the noblest supreme king of kings, was the highest title adopted by Harsha. From the Guptas onwards, the adoption of such lofty sounding titles became standard. Such titles spread as soon as the king conquered the entire world and rose to top among their opponents. The title of Sakalotra Pateshwara, Lord of the entire North, given to Harsha by his enemy Pulaksen II, adds to the legitimacy of the lofty appellation. Rajas or Maharajas were the titles of the subordinate rulers. Although they had independence in their own countries, they were still loyal to the rulers. Unfortunately, we learn very little about Harsha's administration from the 2 key authorities, Bana and Xuzang. We can learn some information about administration from the inscriptions of Harsha, Pulaksen II, his successors, and other contemporary monarchs. Those sources state that the king served as the top official in the country. The ministries and significant state officials were chosen by him. In combat, he commanded the armies. He exercised power in accordance with the Dharma Shastra's precepts. A council of ministers aided the king in running the country. Samantas, princes, prominent officials, and feudatories were present in his council. The royal palace was run by a special staff of officers. Department chiefs existed who were directly under the king's command. The civic and military ministries were not properly divided during Harsha's reign. Because of this, some of the highest civil officers also served as military officers. The provincial and district governments were very similar to the Guptas. This is clear from the name of the administrative divisions and the officials listed in the inscriptions of Faridpur by Dharmaditya and Samachar Deva, the inscription of Harsha and the descriptions of Bana. They also appear in the inscriptions of Harsha. Now, apart from the North India, we also see many of the powers emerged there in South India during the post-Gupta period. So, we will now shift towards South India and we'll talk about some of these important powers as they emerge in South India, and one of them was the Pallavas. The Pallavas' ancestry is hotly contested. Some historians link their ancestry to the Pallavas or Parthians, who dominated ancient Iran from 247 BCE to 224 CE. However, other historians contend that they were an indigenous tribe, clan, or even caste rather than an immigrant people. They may have had ties to the Vakataka clan, according to some speculation. Another story claims that a Pallava minister of the western Kshatrapas obtained the throne of Kanchi through a marriage alliance. This idea focuses at the role of matrimonial partnerships to explain their genesis, since he got married to Shivaskanda Naga Satkarni's daughter. Some people also think they were descended from a Manipalam Naga princess and a Chola prince. The early Pallavas and the imperial or later Pallavas can be widely categorized and studied in order to comprehend their political history. We know more about the history of the imperial Pallavas beginning in the 6th century CE, but many parts of the early Pallava history are still unclear. The ongoing conflict between the Cholukyas of Vatapi or Badami in the Bagalkot area of the present state of Karnataka and the imperial Pallavas make up a significant portion of the later's history. Now, we will be talking about the early Pallavas. An exact genealogy of the early Pallava kings is challenging to establish. According to some academics, Virukcha was the first significant emperor of the early Pallavas. He is thought to have wedded a princess from the Satvana line who was a Naga. Upon the collapse of Satvana dynasty, he attained independence. Around 200 CE, his grandson Kumara Vishnu seized Kanchipuram, founded a kingdom there, and designated Kanchipuram as his capital. The Kalabaras attacked the realm and overthrew the last early Pallava king during his reign. The early Pallava era of the control came to an end as a result. Now we will be talking about the later Pallavas. When Simu Vishnu 575 to 590 CE overthrew the Kalabaras and ushered in the imperial Pallava dynasty in the 6th century CE, the Pallavas were able to reclaim their lost political influence in Tonda Mandalam. He also engaged in combat with the Cholas and Pandyas. He also adopted the Biruda's royal titles of Simu Vishnu Putriyana and Avinash Sima, the loin of the earth. Mahindra Varman I, Sima Vishnu's son, succeeded him as king from 590 to 630 CE. Under his leadership, the Pallavas rose to prominence in politics. He was a king who achieved a lot. He was an accomplished Veena player in addition to being well known for his writing and work on temple construction. He supported numerous artistic pursuits including music, painting, and theatre. He adopted the names Vichitra Chitta, Chitrakara Puli, Mata Vilasa, Lalitankora, Gunabara, and Chatakari. The Pallava Cholukya wars, in which the two dynasties' successive kings had to take part and battle one another, began during his reign. Mahindra Varman I was beaten close to Kanchi by Pulaksen II, the formidable monarch of the Cholukyas of Vatapi, who had earlier defeated the renowned Pushpati dynasty leader Harshvardhana in a decisive battle. Pulaken II then marched on the Pallavas' capital. Mahendravarman I, in order to save his capital, agreed to sign a peace treaty with the Cholakyan emperor and gave him northern territories of his kingdom. Mahendravarman I was succeeded by Narasimhavarman I. He is regarded as the best Pallava emperor. He adopted the name Mamala, great warrior. He demolished Cholakyan capital Vatapi and killed Cholakyan ruler Pulaken II. To honor this amazing triumph, he adopted the name Vatapi Konda, conqueror of Vatapi. He also defeated the Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas. In order to aid Manavama, an exiled Ceylonese prince who had come to him requesting his assistance in seizing the throne of Ceylon. He twice invaded Ceylon, that's Sri Lanka. Along with the prince, the Pallava king dispatched his troops to Ceylon. Even though Manavama was successful in gaining the Ceylonese throne, her success was short-lived. He once more requested assistance from the Pallava ruler. The Ceylonese prince was able to consolidate and maintain his royal power thanks to the second naval expedition's greater success. The renowned Chinese Buddhist traveler Hunsong visited Kanchipuram in 642 CE under the reign of Narasimhavarman I. Next to govern was Mahendravarman II. His rule was brief. Political unrest in the Pallava kingdom resulted from hostility between the Pallavas and Cholukyas. Mahendravarman II was defeated by the Cholakya king Vikramaditya I with the aid of the Ganga emperor in the west. This time, the Cholukyas of Badami briefly took control of the Pallava capital Kanchipuram after it had been taken. Parmeshvarman I made many unsuccessful attempts to defeat the Cholukyas, and finally he was successful in overthrowing them. To honor this victory, he adopted the names Ugradanda and the sealer of the city of Rana Rasika. Since Cholakya king Vikramaditya I had adopted the title Rana Rasika, the reign of Narasimhavarman II was stable and peaceful as the continuous battles between the two kingdoms came to an end during this time. He also sent embassies to China. Parmeshvarman II had to sign a shameful peace treaty with the king of the Cholukyas of Vatapi, Vikramaditya II, when the latter had invaded Kanchipuram. He was put to death by the Gangas, the political allies of the Cholukyas. Following the death of Parmeshvaravarman II, Nandivarman II ruled. He began the reign of the later Pallavas of the Kadwa line, since he belonged to the Pallavas' subsidiary branch. The Kadavas, who had descended from Bhimavarman, Simha Vishnu's brother. He too had to contend with Vikramaditya II, who once more invaded the Pallava capital. Despite taking Kanchipuram, this time the Cholakya monarch chose to retire to his own land because the capital city had not been completely destroyed. In their political disputes, this is the lone instance of unusual leniency that has been observed. Although he was also overpowered by a Pandya king, he managed to triumph against the western Gangas. His successors were Dantivarman, Nandivarman III, Rupadanga, and Aparajita. Aparajita, the last imperial Pallava became one of the feudatories of the Cholas. Now we will be talking about the administration of Pallava. Let's examine the central administration and the regional administrative divisions of the Pallavas to gain an understanding of their system of government. Among the Pallavas, royalty was inherited. The king was the supreme head of the judiciary, the supreme commander of his army, and other positions of supreme authority inside his realm. He took the name Dharma Maharaja to highlight that he ran his empire in accordance with the Dharma Shastra principles. The Pallava government had a well organized administrative organization. The king accepted the help and service of the designated ministers or amatiyas. Young prince from the kingdom served as the head of the government ministries. The honorable army officials were also assigned the responsibility of overseeing the royal departments in addition to the members of the royal family. The army was well kept under the dynasty. The Pallava kingdom's organizational structure is strikingly similar to that of the Gupta Empire. The Pallava inscriptions use the terms Rashtra, Desh, or Mandala to describe the kingdom's geographical area. The Gupta inscription also contain these terms for the region. The entire kingdom or Rashtra was divided into a number of kotamas and nadus, which served as administrative divisions. The king appointed officers while in charge of overseeing each kotam. Grama or village was the smallest administrative subdivision. There were numerous local assemblies that were autonomous in nature to handle village government. The two that were most significant were Sabha and Ur. Most often, the Sabhas lived in Brahmadeva villages, that is, the villages granted to the Brahmins. They were hence gathering comprised of Brahman caste people. The Ur was made up of members of many castes. These self-governing assemblies were tasked with overseeing temples, maintaining irrigation tanks, providing charitable services, and other duties. Village assemblies were in operation throughout the Pallava dynasty and were crucial to the effective operation of the villages. However, a lot of information about their roles and connections to the federal government is unknown. Dear students, it was all about today's lecture regarding post-Gupta polities. Hope you have understood it well. See you next time with a new topic. Till then, take care and goodbye.